One of us has to leave, and it won't be me. Understood?
The thing about humiliation is that it tastes like stale champagne and sounds like forced laughter echoing off conference room walls. I should know, I was drowning in both at Travis Corp's annual Christmas party, watching my wife Lydia fawn over her golden child sister Rachel, like she'd just cured cancer instead of getting another undeserved promotion. "Max, you're not mingling," Lydia hissed through her practice smile, the one she reserved for company functions and lying to my face. Her red dress clung to her like a second skin, and I couldn't help but notice how Jonas Maddox's eyes kept drifting over her curves. Jonas, my former best friend, now the company's hotshot sales director. The irony wasn't lost on me. "I'm observing," I replied, nursing my third beer and watching the corporate theater unfold. It's fascinating how predictable this all is. The conference room had been transformed into a winter wonderland, complete with fake snow and twinkling lights that probably cost more than my annual bonus, which, knowing my father-in-law Rick Travis, wasn't saying much. "Ladies and gentlemen," Rick's voice boomed across the room, commanding attention like the corporate dictator he'd always been. "Time for our annual recognition ceremony." Here we go, I thought, settling back against the wall. The Travis family Christmas tradition of making everyone else feel like garbage while they celebrated their own mediocrity. First up, my daughter Rachel, who single-handedly landed the Morrison account this quarter. Rick beamed with paternal pride that he'd never once shown me in 15 years of marriage to his other daughter. The crowd applauded as Rachel glided forward in her designer dress, blonde hair perfect, smile radiant. Everything Lydia had always wanted to be, but never quite achieved. "Rachel, as a token of our appreciation," Rick pulled out a set of keys, dangling them like a carrot. A brand new BMW X5, fully loaded. The room erupted in cheers and congratulations. Rachel squealed with delight, hugging her father while cameras flashed. I watched Lydia's face carefully, the flash of jealousy quickly masked by sisterly pride. She'd perfected that expression over the years. "And," Rick continued, "effective immediately, Rachel will be taking over the corner office on the 5th floor as our new vice president of client relations." More applause, more cameras, more of the same nepotistic BS that had defined my career at this company. Jonas stepped forward, raising his glass. "To Rachel, the most deserving person I know." His eyes found mine across the room, and his smile turned predatory. Some people earn their success through hard work and talent. The implication hung in the air like smoke. I felt every pair of eyes in the room glance my way, the husband who'd married into the family business and never quite measured up. "Now," Rick's voice cut through the murmur, "we have one more recognition to make. Max Harrow, our dedicated IT manager, come on up here." My stomach dropped. This wasn't on the program. Lydia nudged me forward with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I walked through the parting crowd, feeling like a man heading to his execution. Rick stood behind the podium with a gift bag, his expression unreadable. "Max has been with us for 15 years, Rick announced. "Through thick and thin, good times and bad, he's been reliable." The word hung there like a slap. Reliable. Not innovative, not successful, not valuable. Reliable. "So, Max, we wanted to give you something special." Rick reached into the bag and pulled out a crumpled $2 bill. "For your dedication to mediocrity." Scattered laughter rippled through the crowd. My face burned as Rick reached into the bag again, this time producing a t-shirt. He shook it out for everyone to see. "World's okayest employee," in bold letters. The laughter grew louder. I stood there, frozen, as my colleagues, people I'd helped, worked with, considered friends, joined in the humiliation. Jonas stepped up to the microphone. "Actually, I have something to add." He pulled out his phone, grinning. "Max, you've been such a good sport about everything. Your wife, your career, your general existence. So here's to the most understanding husband in the room." The way he said it made my blood run cold. The emphasis on understanding. The look he shared with Lydia. The puzzle pieces clicking into place in my mind. I grabbed the microphone from Jonas. "You know what? You're absolutely right. I have been understanding. Maybe too understanding." The room fell silent. Rick's face darkened. Lydia looked panicked. "I've understood a lot of things lately, like why my wife's been working so many late nights, why her phone is always face down, why certain people," I looked directly at Jonas, "have been so interested in my marriage." "Max," Lydia's voice was sharp with warning, But the thing about understanding, I continued, is that it goes both ways. And I think it's time everyone understood exactly what kind of people they're applauding tonight. I pulled out my phone, fingers flying over the screen. Within seconds, I'd sent an email to everyone in the company directory. Check your emails, folks. I think you'll find the attached photos very enlightening. The room erupted in chaos as phones buzzed and screens lit up. I watched faces change from confusion to shock to disgust as they saw the photos. Lydia and Jonas in the company parking garage, hands all over each other, her dress hiked up, his wedding ring glinting in the security light. "You fool!" Jonas lunged forward, but I was already moving toward the exit. "Enjoy the party," I called over my shoulder. "Consider it my gift to the company." I walked out into the December night, leaving behind the sounds of shouting, crying, and the complete destruction of the Travis family Christmas tradition. My phone was already buzzing with calls and texts, but I ignored them all. For the first time in years, I felt truly alive. The house was dark when I got home, which gave me exactly the time I needed to prepare. I'd been planning this moment for months, ever since I'd first discovered their affair through the company's email monitoring system. Being the IT manager had its perks: access to everything, visibility into everyone's digital lives, and the technical skills to document it all. I poured myself a scotch and settled into my home office, pulling up the files I'd been compiling. Photos, emails, text messages, financial records, a complete dossier of betrayal that went far deeper than just infidelity. The front door slammed around midnight. Lydia's heels clicked across the hardwood floor like gunshots. "Max!" Her voice echoed through the house. "Max, where are you?" I didn't answer. Let her come to me. She found me in the office, sitting calmly behind my desk like I was conducting a business meeting. Her makeup was smeared, her perfect hair disheveled. The red dress that had looked so stunning earlier now seemed cheap and desperate. "What the hell did you do?" she screamed, slamming her purse down on my desk. "I shared some photos with our colleagues," I replied, taking another sip of scotch. "Team-building exercise. You destroyed everything. My career, my reputation, my family." "Your family?" I laughed, the sound bitter in the quiet room. "Lydia, you destroyed your family the moment you decided to screw my best friend in a parking garage?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. It didn't mean anything. It was just what? A mistake? A moment of weakness?" I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. "Because I have about 6 months of moments of weakness documented here." Her face went white as she saw the screen. A timeline of her affair, complete with photos, emails, and hotel receipts. Everything organized with the methodical precision that had made me good at my job and terrible at trusting my wife. "You've been spying on me," she whispered. "I've been doing my job. Company email monitoring, remember? It's in everyone's contract. Though I have to say, using the corporate credit card for your romantic getaways was particularly stupid." Lydia sank into the chair across from me, her anger deflating into something that looked almost like relief. "How long have you known?" 6 months, 2 weeks, and 3 days. Since the first time you told me you were working late on the Henderson proposal, and I tracked your phone to the Marriott downtown? Why didn't you say anything?" I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. Even now, disheveled and caught, she was beautiful. It made what I had to do next easier and harder at the same time. Because I wanted to make sure I had everything. Every lie, every betrayal, every stolen moment. I wanted the complete picture before I decided what to do about it. "And what are you going to do?" I smiled, and I could see her shiver at the coldness in it. "I'm going to destroy all of you, systematically, completely, and very publicly." Her phone buzzed on the desk. She glanced at it and winced. "Jonas is calling." "Answer it," I said. "Put it on speaker." "Max, I can't." "Answer the damn phone, Lydia." Her hands shook as she swiped to accept the call and hit the speaker button. "Lydia, thank God. Are you okay? That psychotic husband of yours just—" "I'm here, Jonas," I interrupted. "And I can hear you just fine." Silence on the other end. Then, "You son of a witch. You have no idea what you've done." "Actually, I have a very clear idea. I've exposed 2 cheating pieces of crap for what they are. How's your wife taking the news?" She's filing for divorce. She took the kids to her mother's." "Good for her. She deserves better than a lying, cheating scumbag." "This isn't over, Max. You think you're so smart, but you have no idea who you're screwing with." I laughed. "Jonas, I've been screwing with you for months. I know exactly who you are. A mediocre salesman with a Napoleon complex and a wandering pecker. But here's what you don't know. I have 6 months of your company credit card receipts, your falsified expense reports, and documentation of at least 12 violations of company policy. The line went quiet. Still there, buddy? Because I'm just getting started. See, while you two were playing house, I was doing what I do best, gathering data. And the data shows some very interesting patterns, like how you've been padding your sales numbers, claiming credit for deals that other people closed, and embezzling company funds through fake client entertainment expenses. You can't prove any of that. Actually, I can. I have receipts, Jonas, literal receipts and emails and recorded phone calls, thanks to the company's call monitoring system that you apparently forgot about. Lydia was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Max, what are you talking about? Your boyfriend has been stealing from your father's company, sweetheart. About $50,000 over the past year by my calculations, which coincidentally is about what he's spent on hotels, dinners, and gifts for you. The phone clattered to the floor as Lydia's hands went to her mouth. Oh my God. Jonas? You still there? I picked up the phone. Because I think we need to have a conversation, man to man. Go to hell, Max. I'll see you there, but you're going first. I hung up and looked at Lydia, who was crying now, mascara streaming down her cheeks. This is insane, she whispered. You're insane. No, Lydia, I'm thorough, and I'm just getting started. The next morning brought chaos that even I hadn't fully anticipated. My phone started ringing at 6 a.m., reporters, colleagues, friends, and enemies all wanting to know what the hell had happened at the Christmas party. I let them all go to voicemail while I prepared for the day ahead. Lydia had slept in the guest room, if she'd slept at all. I could hear her pacing, making hushed phone calls, probably trying to do damage control. Too little, too late. I dressed carefully, my best suit, the one I'd worn to our wedding. The irony felt appropriate. The Travis Corp offices were buzzing when I arrived. Conversations stopped as I walked through the lobby, replaced by whispers and stares. I nodded politely to everyone, playing the role of the wronged husband with dignity intact. My assistant, Karen, was waiting by my office door with coffee and a stack of message slips. She'd been with the company for 20 years and had seen every scandal, but her eyes were wide with something between shock and admiration. Mr. Harrow, she said quietly, Mr. Travis wants to see you in his office. Immediately. I'm sure he does. Tell him I'll be up in an hour. I have some emails to send first. Karen hesitated. He said immediately, sir. And I said an hour. Rick Travis can wait. He's had 15 years to treat me with respect. Another hour won't kill him. I closed my office door and got to work. The emails I'd prepared the night before went out in carefully timed waves, first to the board of directors, documenting Jonas's financial irregularities and policy violations, then to the company's major clients, professional but pointed messages about ensuring their accounts were being handled ethically. Finally, to the local business journal, with a complete breakdown of the nepotism and corruption that had defined Travis Corp's management structure for years. Each email was factual, documented, and legally bulletproof. I'd learned a lot about corporate law in the past 6 months. My phone rang constantly, but I ignored it. Let them sweat. At exactly 10 a.m., I walked up to Rick Travis's corner office. His secretary, Mrs. Henderson, looked like she'd aged 10 years overnight. Go right in, Mr. Harrow. He's waiting. Rick was standing behind his desk, his face purple with rage. Jonas sat in one of the chairs, looking like he hadn't slept. Both men turned as I entered. You son of a witch, Rick snarled. What do you think you're doing? Good morning to you too, Rick. Jonas? I took the empty chair, crossing my legs casually. Beautiful day, isn't it? Don't play games with me, Max. You've humiliated my family, destroyed my daughter's reputation, and now you're spreading lies about my company. Lies? I pulled out a folder and set it on his desk. Everything in there is documented fact, financial records, email trails, witness statements. Your golden boy here has been stealing from you for over a year. Jonas jumped up. That's BS, and you know it. Sit down, Jonas. My voice was quiet, but carried enough menace to stop him cold. The adults are talking. Rick opened the folder, his face growing paler with each page. Bank records, credit card statements, falsified expense reports, all of it meticulously organized and cross-referenced. This doesn't prove anything, Rick said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. It proves that Jonas has been embezzling company funds to finance his affair with your daughter. It proves that he's been falsifying sales reports and claiming credit for other people's work. And it proves that you've been so busy playing favorites that you missed a thief operating right under your nose. Even if this is true, it is true. And the board knows it now. So does the Business Journal, the State Attorney General's office, and about half of your client base. The color drained from Rick's face. You contacted clients. You called the Attorney General. I documented a pattern of corporate fraud and reported it to the appropriate authorities. It's called being a responsible citizen. Jonas was on his feet again, pacing like a caged animal. You're destroying innocent people, Max. Lydia never hurt you. She made a mistake. Innocent? I laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet office. Jonas, you screwed my wife for 6 months while stealing from her father's company. In what universe does that make either of you innocent? It wasn't supposed to happen like this, Jonas said, running his hands through his hair. Things got complicated. No, Jonas, things got simple. You wanted my wife, you took her. You wanted money, you stole it. You wanted respect, you faked it. But you forgot one crucial detail. What's that? I stood up, straightening my tie. You forgot that I'm the guy who sees everything. Every email, every phone call, every digital footprint in this company goes through systems that I control. You might have fooled Rick, you might have fooled Lydia, but you never fooled me. Rick slammed his hand on the desk. What do you want, Max? Money? A promotion? What's it going to take to make this go away? Nothing, I said simply. This isn't going away. This is just getting started. I walked toward the door, then paused. Oh, and Rick, you might want to check your daughter Rachel's expense accounts too. Turns out financial irregularity runs in the family. The silence behind me was deafening as I walked out. By Thursday, the situation had escalated beyond anything I'd imagined. The state investigation had moved quickly. Apparently, corporate fraud involving a family business made for good headlines and easy prosecutions. Jonas had been suspended pending investigation. Lydia had been placed on administrative leave, and Rachel was scrambling to explain some very creative accounting in her client entertainment budget. I was in my office reviewing security footage from the parking garage when Brandon Murphy knocked on my door. Brandon was one of the few genuine friends I had at the company, a straight-talking former Marine who ran our facilities management team. Max, we need to talk, he said, closing the door behind him. What's up? Jonas is looking for you, and he's not looking to talk. I leaned back in my chair. Define not looking to talk. He's been drinking since lunch, talking about how you destroyed his life, how you're going to pay for what you've done. Security's keeping an eye on him, but Brandon shrugged. Thought you should know. I appreciate the heads up. Max, I have to ask, are you sure about all this? I mean, what Jonas did was wrong, but this seems like scorched earth. I turned my monitor toward him, showing the financial records I'd compiled. Brandon, he stole $63,000 from this company. He falsified reports, claimed credit for other people's work, and committed infidelity with my wife using company resources. What part of that deserves mercy? Brandon whistled low. 63 grand? Jesus. That's just what I can prove. The real number is probably higher. And Lydia? I closed the files and looked at my friend. Lydia made her choice. She chose him over me, lies over truth, and easy over right. I'm just making sure there are consequences for those choices. Brandon nodded slowly. Fair enough, but watch your back, okay? Jonas is talking crazy. He left, and I went back to work. But I couldn't concentrate. Something about Brandon's warning bothered me, not because I was afraid of Jonas, but because I realized I wanted the confrontation. I wanted him to come for me. I didn't have to wait long. At 6 p.m., as I was packing up to leave, Jonas appeared in my doorway. He looked like hell, unshaven, eyes red-rimmed, suit wrinkled. The smell of booze preceded him into the room. We need to talk, he said, stepping inside and closing the door. Do we? I thought we covered everything pretty thoroughly the other night. You destroyed my life. No, Jonas, you destroyed your life. I just documented it. He moved closer to my desk, swaying slightly. Sarah took everything. The house, the kids, the car, everything. Good for her. She deserves better than a lying, stealing piece of crap. And the company? Rick fired me today. 15 years with this company, and he fired me over some BS accounting irregularities. $63,000 isn't BS, Jonas. It's felony embezzlement. You don't understand. he said, his voice rising. I needed that money. Sarah's medical bills, the kids' school, the mortgage. So you stole it, and you used it to screw my wife. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I stood up, facing him across the desk. Enlighten me, Jonas. What was it like when you were screwing my wife in hotel rooms paid for with stolen money? He lunged across the desk, but I was ready. I sidestepped, letting his momentum carry him into the wall behind me. He spun around, face flushed with rage and booze. You think you're so smart, he snarled. But you have no idea what you've started. I know exactly what I've started. I've started the process of holding you accountable for your actions. Accountable? He laughed bitterly. You want to talk about accountability? Let's talk about how you drove Lydia into my arms. Excuse me? You think she came to me because she was bored? She came to me because you're a cold, calculating fool who treated her like a roommate instead of a wife. So it's my fault you're a thief and an adulterer? It's your fault she needed someone who actually gave a damn about her feelings. I walked around the desk, closing the distance between us. Jonas, let me explain something to you. I treated Lydia exactly the way she deserved to be treated, with respect, honesty, and fidelity. The fact that she preferred lies, theft, and betrayal says something about her character, not mine. You son of a witch, he swung at me, a wild haymaker that I easily ducked. I grabbed his wrist and twisted, forcing him face first against the wall. Here's what's going to happen, Jonas. You're going to leave my office, leave this building, and stay the hell away from me and my wife. She's not your wife anymore, he gasped against the wall. She's filing for divorce. Good. Then she'll be free to visit you in prison. I released him and stepped back. He turned around, rubbing his wrist, eyes full of hate. This isn't over, Max. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. He left, slamming the door behind him. I sat back down at my desk and made a note in Jonas's file. Physical confrontation, 6:15 p.m., witness statements to follow. Everything documented, everything recorded, everything building toward the endgame I'd been planning for months. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday morning at 9 a.m. I arrived early, setting up my presentation in the main conference room. Charts, graphs, financial projections, everything laid out with the precision of a surgical strike. Rick Travis entered at exactly 9, followed by the other board members. Lydia and Rachel came in together, both looking like they'd been crying. Jonas was notably absent. His suspension had become termination the day before. Ladies and gentlemen, Rick began, we're here to address the serious allegations that have been raised against several members of our management team. I stood up. If I may, Rick, I'd like to present my findings to the board. Max, I don't think... Actually, interrupted board member Patricia Wells, I think we all need to hear what Max has discovered. The preliminary audit supports his allegations. Rick's face darkened, but he nodded. Go ahead. I clicked to my first slide, a timeline of financial irregularities dating back 18 months. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're looking at is a systematic pattern of fraud, embezzlement, and corporate malfeasance that has cost this company over $200,000. Gasps around the table. Even I was surprised by the final number. My investigation had uncovered far more than I'd initially suspected. Jonas Maddox alone accounts for $63,000 in direct embezzlement, but his falsified sales reports and inflated client entertainment expenses bring his total to nearly $90,000. I clicked to the next slide, showing Rachel's expense accounts. Rachel Travis has claimed over $40,000 in questionable expenses, including personal travel, clothing purchases, and entertainment costs that have no legitimate business purpose. Rachel started to speak, but Patricia Wells cut her off with a gesture. And finally, I clicked to the last slide, we have evidence of conspiracy to defraud, as several of these transactions were coordinated between multiple parties to avoid detection. The room was silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Mr. Harrow, said board member James Chen, these are serious accusations. Do you have documentation to support all of this? I have bank records, credit card statements, email correspondence, phone logs, and witness statements. Everything has been provided to the State Attorney General's office and the FBI's white-collar crime division. Rick's face went gray. The FBI? Corporate fraud across state lines becomes a federal matter, Rick, especially when it involves falsified financial reports to potential investors. What investors? Patricia asked. I smiled. The Morrison Group, the deal that Rachel claimed credit for. They've been considering acquiring Travis Corp. Rachel's falsified sales numbers and hidden liabilities constitute securities fraud. The room erupted in chaos. Board members shouting questions. Rick trying to maintain control. Lydia and Rachel both crying. I stood quietly in the center of it all, watching my carefully constructed plan reach its climax. Patricia Wells banged her gavel for order. "Mr. Travis, I'm calling for an immediate vote of no confidence in current management. All in favor?" 7 hands went up. Only Rick abstained. Motion carried. Rick, you're suspended as CEO pending investigation. Rachel, you're terminated effective immediately. Lydia, given your personal involvement with Mr. Maddox, you're also terminated. "You can't do this," Rick sputtered. "This is my company." "Actually," I interjected, "it's a publicly traded corporation with a board of directors that has fiduciary responsibility to the shareholders, and those shareholders deserve better than a management team that treats the company treasury like their personal piggy bank." Patricia turned to me. "Mr. Harrow, given your role in uncovering this fraud, the board would like to offer you the position of interim CEO while we search for permanent leadership." The offer hung in the air like a gift I'd never expected. Rick's face went purple with rage. "Him? You want to put him in charge?" "He's the only member of management who isn't under federal investigation," James Chen pointed out, "and his 15 years of service speak to his integrity and dedication." I looked around the room, at Rick's fury, at Lydia's devastation, at Rachel's disbelief. Then I looked at Patricia Wells, who was waiting for my answer. "I accept," I said simply. The transformation was immediate. Security escorted Rick, Lydia, and Rachel from the building while I moved into the CEO's office, the same office where Rick had humiliated me just a week ago. By afternoon, the story had hit the local news. Travis Corp CEO ousted in fraud scandal. The photos showed Rick, Lydia, and Rachel leaving the building under police escort, while I stood at the podium announcing the company's commitment to ethical business practices. Jonas called me that evening, his voice slurred with booze and desperation. "You won," he said. "Are you happy now?" "I'm satisfied," I replied. "There's a difference. Lydia's destroyed. Rachel's facing federal charges. Rick's had a heart attack. Did you know that? He's in the hospital. I'm sorry to hear about Rick's health. As for the rest of it, actions have consequences, Jonas. You all forgot that." "What about you, Max? What are the consequences for you?" I looked around my new office, Rick's old office, with its panoramic view of the city. "I get to rebuild this company the right way. Without lies, without fraud, without betrayal. I'd say those are pretty good consequences." "You're a cold fool." "No, Jonas, I'm just thorough." I hung up and poured myself a drink from Rick's private bar. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, and for the first time in months, I felt genuinely at peace. 6 months later, I stood in the same conference room where it had all begun. But everything had changed. Travis Corp had not only survived the scandal, but thrived under new leadership. Stock prices were up 30%. We'd landed 3 major new clients, and employee morale had never been higher. The Christmas party this year was different, smaller, more genuine, focused on actual achievements rather than nepotistic theater. I watched my employees celebrate real accomplishments earned through hard work and integrity. Brandon Murphy approached with 2 beers. "Hell of a year, boss." "That it was." "Any word on the trials?" I nodded. "Jonas pled guilty last week. 2 years federal prison, full restitution. Rachel's trial starts next month, but her lawyers are pushing for a plea deal. The evidence is overwhelming." "And Lydia?" "Divorce was finalized yesterday. She's moving to California, trying to start over." Brandon studied my face. "Any regrets?" I considered the question seriously. "About the divorce? No. About destroying their lives?" I paused, watching the genuine happiness around me. "They destroyed their own lives, Brandon. I just made sure there were consequences." "That's cold, man." "Maybe, but it's also justice." My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number, but I recognized the writing style immediately. "Max, I know you'll never forgive me, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. Not just for getting caught, but for what I did to us. You deserve better. L." I showed the message to Brandon, who whistled low. "You going to respond?" I deleted the message without answering. Nothing to say. The party continued around us, but I found myself thinking about the past year. The investigation, the trials, the complete destruction of everything Rick Travis had built. Some might call it revenge, but I preferred to think of it as accountability. Jonas was in federal prison, his wife and children starting new lives without him. Rachel was facing 5 years for securities fraud and conspiracy. Rick had survived his heart attack, but lost everything. His company, his reputation, his family's legacy. And Lydia was 3,000 miles away, working as a receptionist and living in a studio apartment. "Mr. Harrow?" Karen, my assistant, appeared at my elbow. "There's someone here to see you." I turned to find a young woman in a business suit, FBI credentials in her hand. "Special Agent Martinez," she said, extending her hand. "I wanted to thank you personally for your cooperation in the Travis Corp investigation. Just doing my civic duty. Your documentation was extraordinary. Most corporate fraud cases take years to build. You handed us everything we needed in a matter of weeks." "I'm thorough," she smiled. "The Bureau could use more citizens like you. Have you ever considered a career change?" I laughed. "Thanks, but I'm happy where I am." After she left, I walked back to my office, the CEO's office that had once belonged to Rick Travis, the same desk where he'd humiliated me, the same chair where he'd dismissed my contributions for 15 years. On the wall hung a framed photo from the company's turnaround announcement. Me at the podium, employees cheering in the background, stock prices climbing on the screen behind me. The caption read, "Travis Corp CEO Max Harrow announces record quarterly profits." I poured myself a scotch from what used to be Rick's private bar and settled into what used to be Rick's chair. Outside, snow was falling on the city, covering everything in pristine white. My phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I recognized but hadn't seen in months. "Hello, Jonas?" "Max." His voice was different, smaller, defeated. "I'm calling from prison." "I figured. What do you want?" "I wanted to ask you something. Did you plan all of this from the beginning?" I leaned back in my chair, considering the question. "You mean, did I plan for you to steal money and sleep with my wife?" "No, Jonas, I'm good, but I'm not that good. But once I found out, I documented everything. I gathered evidence, I built a case, and then I waited for the right moment to present it." The Christmas party. The Christmas party was perfect. All of you together, celebrating your success, basking in your sense of superiority. It seemed like the right time to show everyone who you really were. Silence on the line. Then, "Do you hate us?" "Hate?" I considered the word. "No, Jonas. Hate requires emotional investment. I simply stopped caring about any of you the moment I realized who you really were." "That's worse than hate." "Yes," I agreed. "It is. Lydia really loved you, you know, before everything went wrong. No, she didn't. She loved the idea of me, the stable husband, the reliable provider, the man who would never question her choices, but she never loved me. And now? Now she's learning what it means to live with the consequences of her actions, just like you are." I heard him take a shaky breath. "I'm sorry, Max, for all of it. I know you are, but sorry doesn't change anything. Will you ever forgive us?" I looked out at the falling snow, thinking about forgiveness and justice and the price of betrayal. "Jonas, forgiveness is something you give to people you care about. I don't care about any of you anymore. You're just cautionary tales now, examples of what happens when people mistake kindness for weakness. That's all we are to you? Examples? That's all you ever were. I just didn't realize it until you showed me." I hung up and turned back to my computer, where quarterly reports waited for my review, numbers that showed growth, stability, and success built on honest work and ethical leadership. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the city in clean, white silence. Inside, I had work to do, a company to run, employees to lead, and a future to build on the ashes of other people's betrayals. I raised my glass to the window, toasting the falling snow and the justice it represented. "To consequences," I said aloud, "and to the people who earned them." Then I got back to work, leaving the past buried under the accumulating snow.